Excellent. As outlined, so I'm the Associate Director for the Risk and Compliance Division within Robert Walters. So I'm here to talk about a few things today. Firstly, outline what we do and our sort of coverage. Also, at the end of today, myself and my colleague Joseph will be outside for any questions you have one-to-one. I'll talk about the compliance market overview, so what it looks like at the moment within financial services, which are what we cover. I'll discuss a bit about careers in compliance, so what it looks like and the benefits for you in compliance. And then finally, just a Q&A that you can ask questions to the audience. So just quickly about us. So the firm that I work for was set up in 1985. My team that I look after was actually set up in 2001 as a specialist team. So we have 53 offices in 24 locations. Within the UK, I run the London team of 10 people. We also have teams that I work with across the UK with Birmingham, Milton Keynes and Manchester within compliance. And we also set up this year due to the increased demand with our clients, a financial services specialist team that was set up at the start of this year. So a quick overview of the market and compliance we see at the moment. Some of these stats and figures have been collected from our clients in surveys. Other numbers that we talk about in this were actually from external job boards and external market data providers that we use to assess trends in the market. So firstly, in terms of some of the surveys we've done with our clients, so 72% of our employers have said they're affected by talent shortages in compliance. As has been alluded before by Bill and by Pekka, the compliance market has been growing in the last few years, and there's been increased focus on regulators, so hence there's an increased need for employees in this area. So 72% of employers have said they're affected by talent shortages, and over 2/3 of employers have mentioned they don't have a plan to tackle these talent shortages. At the moment, and this number has actually gone down since the last time I did this presentation, but 2.3 compliance jobs for every candidate. So we actually looked at all the different job boards, and we used an external provider for this, and looked at the number of jobs versus the number of candidates that are registered, and it says that there's 2.3 compliance jobs for every candidate, which across my business, or across my company, that's the highest number across all the different disciplines within financial services. The key point here to note, though, is the vacancies are slowing. So after year-on-year increases, the vacancies have showed to slow in the last 6 months. Now, this is mainly down to the fact that a lot of financial services are being affected by poor profits and therefore lowering costs in terms of staff. So the vacancies we are seeing are slowing, but the rate of increase in the last few years has been so noticeable that there is still a number of jobs within compliance that still need to be filled. We saw a 1% increase year on year, so only a 1% increase on 2015 to 2014. So as a point at the bottom there, after sustained year-on-year growth, the vacancies are slowing, but skill shortages still exist and talent is still very, very hard to find. A quick overview of the trends that we're seeing in the moment. So the hiring we are seeing is regulatory driven. So anything that is affected by a regulator is being focused on. So we're seeing areas in compliance monitoring and governance and assuring processes. So we call this a second line of defence function, which actually looks at processes within a bank to ensure they are compliant and they are meeting best practice standards. Regulatory advisory and policy development. So one of the key things, as mentioned, is the senior managers regime. So looking at how that affects the bank and how they can set the firm up to actually make sure they are adhering to the regulations. We're seeing financial crime as a key focus. Within that, we actually include AML. As mentioned before, sanctions screening is a big area of recruitment at the moment and a huge focus on many banks. Also AML governance and looking at the data that goes into AML and making sure that they can actually analyse that and produce reports that are usable by senior management. An outlook that I see this year, I think it's going to be a cautious approach to hiring. I think there will still be a lot of hiring going on within this space, but a very cautious approach to making sure that when they're looking at hiring individuals, they are qualified and they are fit for the job they're doing. Hence the importance of qualifications in coming into this field. And also a growth in the regions. So a lot of banks are looking to build, they're called nearshore locations, so places outside of London. So Birmingham, Manchester, definitely Glasgow and Edinburgh are being focused on building compliance hubs outside of just London. Again, we talked about shortages slowing, so they still remain across most areas. And again, this is from our survey of our clients we conducted last year. 64% feel that the candidates lack the right technical skills, and 32% feel there's an overall lack of quantity, so not enough people affecting their ability to choose when they are hiring staff. And the key point to take here is that once they've looked at the existing skill set or the market of actual like-for-like hiring, so someone who's coming from a job somewhere else at another firm, they start looking at alternative talent streams. So looking at transferable skills that can move into compliance. So things like audit, operations, people from paralegal and legal backgrounds, also trading and sales, moving from a front office role into a middle office role, which is compliance. Why a career in compliance? This is obviously, I'm quite biased, so I recruit for it, but some reasons here I think are very important to note, and how the compliance role has changed, definitely since the turn of the financial crisis. The profile of a compliance officer is definitely increased. So there's high level of stakeholder engagement. So from the top down, the importance of having robust compliance infrastructure is huge in all these banks. So therefore, the profile of the officer in the business themselves is actually at a very, very high level. There is a lot of board level support and investment in terms of the staff and the development of staff and training of staff within compliance. There's interesting, challenging roles with critical importance. There's always change, and there's new regulations coming in, which means the roles will develop and change regularly. So therefore, the roles aren't just a sort of regular, reporting, monotonous role. You're getting a variety in your role, which is very, very important. Linking into the first point I mentioned, there's fast-track career opportunities. Given the focus on these areas and the actual the increase or the growth predicted to continue, there's going to be opportunity for talent to be exposed and recognised. And finally, the benefits, and obviously compensation is a key thing. The salaries have increased steadily in the last few years. And this I think will start to even out a little bit, but with increased recognition of importance, obviously comes increased recognition in regards to remuneration. And next thing about how, so obviously we are here to support that process, and the more you can do yourself to try and put yourself in position to have a better opportunity to get these careers is key. So unlike a lot of professions like law or accounting, there's no direct sort of traditional stream to get into compliance. So there are graduate schemes that are being run and being developed, but most of it's developed internally within banks themselves, or looking, as mentioned before, moving from one industry to another. So hiring managers are generally looking for a reason to hire. They want transferable skills that are relevant to the job they're recruiting for, or compliance-related qualifications. So qualifications that show that you've learned from a theoretical basis that you can use that to move it into a practical side. And obviously, the last point there is there's the higher profile of the role now. It's more interest. So we've seen a lot more people trying to make this transition. So the key for us is making sure that people can stand out with qualifications or something. If they haven't got the skills in the role, something that makes them stand out apart from their competitors is very, very key in regards to differentiating yourself with qualifications. And just the last point to make, we've done just a quick case study that I've looked at in terms of our database that we've used in the last few years, and a recent placement last year that we made. So someone who graduated with a business management degree, went through paralegal and went through operations and onboarding, so a different type of career, whilst within financial services, not within compliance. They did a qualification with the ICA, and we placed them into an AML investigations role, AML advisory role, within a US investment bank. This is the type of opportunities that are offered to people with qualifications, and it is an example of moving from one industry to another within to get into compliance. And that's it from me. Obviously, we're outside for any questions you have on your own sort of individual career path, and can assist. But any questions you have right now from the audience, I'm happy to field if I can. No? Oh, there's one here at the front.
For entry level, what are the prerequisites in terms of qualification and experience? What a hiring manager would look into?
For entry level? It depends again which part of compliance you're going into, because it differs by the different areas you're looking at within compliance. If you're looking at entry level within like a KYC role to make a move into a financial crime role, they're looking for a transferable experience, so something that a skill that you've got in your current role, which may benefit that job. So it could be anything that's involving investigations, analytical skills, data manipulation tools, those sort of things, and also qualifications that will help assist with that role. So look for those sort of things. If they're not finding the same job, the person doing the job somewhere else, they're looking for those skill sets on a CV, and they're also looking for a qualification which shows theoretical knowledge that you can move into that role, if that helps.
I just wanted to find out, working in a bank, retail, I do a lot of KYC and AML control checks. From your company, how many or what sort of percentage of people would you say come from that arena and move on to compliance? So from sort of retail banking, but control checks into compliance.
It's hard to give a percentage. I wouldn't want to try and give you a number and be way off. But we do see the transition going from that role. And if someone's looking at hiring from an investment banking KYC role to a retail banking one, the difference is in the customer that they're actually dealing with. So they'll ask what sort of customer or what sort of clients they're dealing with on the other side. So there is a learning process to, get there. My hands are pretty poor. There is a learning process to get there, and it's not impossible, but what you're doing right now with the qualification will definitely, you can move into that role, but you're probably more likely to move into a KYC role than an investment bank and then move into an AML role after that. That helps. There's one behind you there.
From a consulting perspective, how do these qualifications help? If you're an independent consultant or maybe part of a large consulting organisation working in financial services, can you throw some light on how these qualifications help?
Are you talking about your personal career or about your ability to consult to other firms?
Consult with other firms.
Well, it'll help because you become more knowledgeable in your field, obviously. And the ICA qualification, whilst I'm not training it, I'm not creating the course, that will help you in terms of your ability to actually consult to other firms, I'm assuming.
I could probably just add to
Yeah,
that.
sure.
Just add to that. It's we do get a lot of people from a consultancy background, either the Big Four or more smaller consultancy firms, and they find it really beneficial for two main reasons. One is the networking that goes on. Obviously, you get the chance to expand your professional contacts, and it's so important now to have that good network of understanding what good practices and being able to talk to other practitioners. The second aspect, obviously, as Chad's mentioned, is raising your technical knowledge and your credibility. So we are recognised around the world by all the Tier 1 institutions. So if they see our qualification, it's just another badge of, I guess, competence as well. So I think it's probably those two angles I would stress.